So what are the lessons from the by-election in the Upper Hunter on the weekend? What are the lessons for the nation for the upcoming federal election? Yes, state Labor are in a funk in New South Wales. They'll probably change leaders. It's good for the coalition government in New South Wales and all of that. There's talk about messaging and brand and leadership and all that usual malarkey. But that's not the real takeout, is it? The real messages are what we ought to refer to as the bleeding obvious. The real messages are to reaffirm what you all know. Mainstream voters expect mainstream policies and mainstream priorities. Real issues matter: jobs, opportunity, economic security, reliable energy, good education and health services. What matters is the basics, and governments that focus on them are the ones that are going to be popular and get returned. Labor were blown away in this by-election because they too often get caught up in virtue signalling on climate change and the sort of identity politics that people in the media love, and also the social media and the ABC obsess over, and that voters, I suppose, in a handful of inner city seats in Sydney and Melbourne are preoccupied with. But Labor is forgetting its roots: workers and aspirational families. And instead of focusing on national security and economic success, it too often gets caught up in global grandstanding, such as on climate change. But the lessons are here not just for the Labor Party. There are warnings here for the coalition as well. Former Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull campaigned in this by-election for a Green independent. She and Turnbull were repudiated. The state's Liberal Environment Minister, Matt Keane, the man leading the charge for net zero by 2050, he was hidden throughout the campaign. Maybe they locked him in an underground coal mine. This virtue signalling, planet-saving, fashionable arm of the Liberal Party is hopeless in the electoral contests that matter in the suburbs and in the regions where elections are won and lost. This by-election was fought and won by the Nationals: pro-coal, pro-jobs, pro-gas-fired electricity, pro-economic prosperity, and unequivocally so. Scott Morrison needs to take heed of this. Get back to the basics. Don't throw money at every social media meme. Don't worry about Paris. Focus on Penrith. Forget politically correct messages for our soldiers. Make sure our country is well defended. Don't fill our kids' curriculum with identity politics. Fill it with the 3 Rs. Throw in a bit of national pride as well. Don't let the Turnbull and Keane types, and there are many supporters in the Liberal Party, don't let them run national policy or national campaigns. It'll end in tears. If Morrison keeps going back to these basics, maintains his pandemic management success and stands strong on China, he's going to win the next election handsomely. That's not to say, in my view, he's got everything right. He spent too much money, locked in way too much spending permanently, and he's pushed for the onerous internal mechanism of vaccine passports, and his reluctance to open up international borders is the stuff that the big government purveyors on the left love as well. But I've got to admit, while I disagree with those aspects, disagree with the federal government on those 2 key points, I know they're politically popular. They're only going to help him win if he gets that other stuff right. People are scared by the pandemic. The media and political hysteria has put the fear of God into people, and they're happy to remain closed up and spend whatever it takes to get through, which is a great pity for their children's long-term taxation burden. But that is the political reality. The lesson to the coalition from this little state by-election is get back to your basic conservative ideals, mainstream values. If you emphasise them strongly in actions as well as in words, you will be unassailable. Because Labor, as Joel Fitzgibbon keeps pointing out, has walked away from its base. It's walked away from Middle Australia.